I think we're live, Justin.
Yeah, looks like it. I'm gonna pop in if you wanna start introducing and I'll let me check and see if I can see it in the groups here.
Yeah. So first of all, hi everyone that's watching. In your mornings, in your evenings, at night, wherever you are in the world right now. We're here for a super special webinar. As you know, like we don't do these quite often, and that's why I'm so stoked about it because I think we're at a point in time in our industry where there's a lot of change happening and a lot of good things are happening because AI is getting like bigger and better like each week, literally. And we have Justin Benson here from Aftershoot, one of the leading AI companies in our industry, and he's going to talk about us with us about his software Aftershoot and his culling and editing tools like within Aftershoot. And maybe Justin can just like introduce himself, like who is he, where is he from, what is he doing, and I think the biggest question we have, like, how did you start Aftershoot?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I did see that we are not quite live yet in the group, so I'm gonna just kind of multitask here while we do it. Um, but yeah, so my name's Justin. I'm the co-founder of Aftershoot, and I'm a full-time wedding photographer. So Aftershoot really, was born out of the need for AI in this industry, the need for the ability for photographers to really get some time back, right? There's so much technology available, but it wasn't in this industry or space. And as a full-time wedding photographer, obviously, my workload was massive. And then Aftershoot came into existence. So it all started via a Facebook message. Or sorry, it was Instagram. I had Instagrammed my co-founder Harshit. I had heard that he was looking for somebody who was, just to talk about AI culling or the possibility of it. And I was like, I have to be involved, right? I hate culling. It's my least favorite thing to do. So I messaged him and we hit it off. And then a couple months later, he had a version of the app for me to try. It was really bad. But I said, hey, don't give up. We can do this. And we teamed up from there.
That's amazing. Because like honestly, like culling is like, as you said, one of the worst things that we have in our industry. And like me personally, I hate it the most. Like of anything that I could give away, it's culling. I think it's boring and I just hate it, right? And like it's crazy, like looking like back like 10 years ago, like even 5 years ago, like everybody was using photo mechanic and we've all been using it for, I don't know, plus 10 years, and it always like felt so old school. And to see like how this evolves to a tool that is basically calling for us, it's just like mind-blowing, like to me personally. And maybe you can let us know like why did in the past like 1 or 2 years like did so many different AI companies pop up? We have Midjourney, ChatGPT, like so many different tools are out there. They're just like growing like out of nowhere. Like why is that?
So it exploded because the technology became available, right? So machine learning's been around for a while, but it became a lot more accessible and it became a lot more open source and more options available. And different people found different uses for it and different use cases and took those and ran with it.
That's a good answer. Yeah, and I think we're gonna see more evolvement in the next years, of course. And I'm just like super excited to see all that happen and just like watch it outplay in front of us. And like Justin, like I'm a big skeptic when it comes to like tools that like do stuff for me personally, and I have a hard time like giving up like stuff, right? So I'm like always a control freak. I have to like go in there and like look everything like it has to be perfect for me, right? And when I first like started like using Aftershoot and played around with it, I was honestly blown away because it literally, yeah, made me happy and I was excited and I was, yeah, again like blown away, and I was okay to give away that part of my workflow. And I'm traveling a lot for weddings, so I'm on airports, like in the plane, and like in the past weeks, especially, I've used that time like at destination weddings to just like cull while traveling, while flying, and it saved me so much time that I can now spend with my family, and it's just super exciting, honestly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's revolutionized the way I work. It's changed how, I've been editing. I mean, just through Aftershoot, I've been traveling around the world, going to conferences and so on and so forth. And I've been able to actually like cull and edit and do these things anywhere in the world, which is amazing, right? It's something that I used to be like, oh, I need to like sit down and really, set aside the time, and it's just such an easy process. And the lack of Wi-Fi, lack of internet required to operate it means that it can happen anywhere.
Totally, totally. So people in chat are pointing out that my voice is like quite low. Is it better now? Is my audio better? So if you can just like leave a comment in the thread, that would be amazing. I'm just going to pull my microphone closer. That should help, right? So we've got some questions that we will cover like in between like sections of the talk, and you can all like still leave questions like in the comments below. So if like have anything that you want to know about, let us know. I'm going to ask Justin like everything, and hopefully he can answer everything and give us some more insights about his tools. But maybe you can start with the culling first, right? So we're gonna do culling first and then editing. So as in our workflow, we're gonna look at how to basically work with an aftershoot. So for everyone that did not try it out yet or haven't seen it, this is gonna be pretty exciting for you guys. And maybe before you like start showing the culling process, you guys are doing like something different with the culling, right? So normally like we would go in and like cull the images first and then run some edits on top of it. But you guys kind of like reversed engineered that and kind of like do a small edit beforehand, right? And then do the culling process. Can you like give us more insight on that?
Yeah, so we have two options available. Because we're unlimited, you're able to actually cull all the images or edit all the images you want. So what some people have actually done is they actually run the cull or run the edits first, and then just culled the AI edited images. So now you're reviewing, edited photos instead. But other people prefer, obviously, just to go about it the same old fashioned way. They want to bring less images into Lightroom. So they're just culling to get down to their target number, bring them in, have it edit from there. But it gives you the flexibility. And that's one of the cool things about our system is that we make sure that it incorporates every type of workflow. So you're not really bound to one particular thing.
Awesome. So let's dive in and show us the power of culling with an aftershoot.
Fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And first thing you'll notice is you're on our landing page, right? This is our home screen. So this is where you get to decide whether you're culling, whether you're editing. You can build your AI profiles for editing here, and you can see these magnificent statistics explaining that I've had 296,000 photos run through Aftershoot and 92,000 were selected. And that basically saved me 57 days and 11 hours, right? If we went out, and this is a true statistic, right? This is my favorite story to tell, is that we actually sat and timed out what it would take for me to manually cull images and then made that statistic based on that number. So everyone's basically comparing themselves to Justin's cull time. So that's a real statistic. If I had culled 296,000 photos, it would have taken me 57 days and 11 hours to do it.
Okay, that's a long time.
Yeah. Cool. So to get started, you can choose either create a new album on the upper left-hand or lower right-hand corner. And then we're going to start with culling. And I have the ability to ingest and back up my photos here. So if I slide this toggle on, I can actually just plug in a memory card, download them to up to 2 separate locations, and begin culling immediately after. In my case, we're not going to do that. I can also choose RAWs only, JPEGs, RAWs, and JPEGs. And I can choose whether I need subfolders or not. So I'm going to go ahead and select a folder here. And we're going to run it on, let's see, pull up a quick little session here. So we have some photos in this from the Fearless conference. So I'm going to import from this folder. And it's going to start importing these images. And now I simply click on Start Culling. So now all I have to do is dictate a couple important settings that are really going to decide what my cull looks like. So first things first, I need to decide what genre it is. We're going to run this under weddings and engagements because it's just kind of people hanging around, similar to a wedding. The next thing I need to do is decide how strict I want the blur to be. So Aftershoot's designed to give you one of everything, one version of everything. In our case, we can decide how strict we want it to be with that blur. So if I took 5 blurry photos, it's still going to show you one because we aren't sure if it was a creative decision that you made, if you had a camera malfunction, if it was just the best image that you could get in the moment. So we'll give you that one of everything. But if I were to set it to strict, it's going to consider a lot more things blurry. Whereas if I set it to lenient, it's going to give me more images as selects or potential selections. Even if they're maybe a slight bit softer, they're still in focus, but they're maybe not the sharpest images. So it'll start considering images that are, say, have great emotion, but maybe slightly blurry.
Okay.
Right? So just a little bit softer. So we're going to run this on moderate for this case. The next important setting here is the criteria for grouping duplicates. So what we do is we actually put your similar images together. Once those similar images are put together, we'll then try and pick the best one out of a set. So if you were to set it to identical, you're saying only put the exact same photos together. Like I hit the shutter a couple times in a row, just give me, pick one of the best out of those. Whereas if you were to set it to something like similar-ish, you're saying, yeah, you know what, if there's like some slight changes in the pose, the head turns and that sort of stuff, you can put those together and try and pick the best one out of that set. So those two settings alone will dictate your cull the most, right? Those are the most important settings available to you. Next up, we have the selections from each duplicate set. So again, this is just a statistic. It's 10%, 20%, 30%. So if I made a group of 10 images by putting it under similar-ish, less would give me 1 out of 10, moderate would give me 2 out of 10, and more would give me 3 out of 10. So again, it can just give you a little bit of diversity within your cull if you'd like to see more images. And then we do have a highlights feature. These are really just the best of the best, right? So we're looking at photos and saying, hey, eyes open, it's smiling, everything looks great. This would be what we consider a highlight or one of the better images of your session. And of course, for boudoir, newborn, you can always turn off closed eyes depending on what you would like. Again, the same concept. One of everything means that if there is a closed eye photo, we'll still give you one version of that image with closed eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I could simply click start culling and let it do its magic. And we say we run on magical unicorns. So we use 15 different magical unicorns to assess your photos. We look for things like blinks, blur, similarity, composition, lighting, and more to effectively reduce your culled images down to a smaller set. And I'll just show you a wedding here really quickly. So I haven't touched these or done anything to them. This is just kind of what a cull would look like when it completes. So you can see it took 43 minutes to get me from 5,142 images down to 1,745. Now, of course, 1,745 images is too many for me. But as I mentioned, we're giving you one of everything. So even those bad photos are going to get selected. For instance, this photo here, nothing's in focus. Totally just a test shot. And this is where the benefit of Aftershoot really shines, is that now I can review these images. I'm not letting the AI take over entirely. I'm instead reviewing them and just making some corrections to the AI's selections and categorizations. So in this case, we have a multitude of ways to do this. The first way is called our grid view, right? So here's where all of the images are laid out in a grid. And by using some simple keyboard shortcuts like the X key, I can simply reject some photos that I don't want. And we're going to scroll down because my key faces are my favorite thing here. So we'll go find some larger group portraits, but I'll show you kind of what it looks like to use those key faces to swap, add, reject, etc. Because again, these are valuable tools just to have in a manual workflow, and the fact that they're AI assisted really changes everything, over the course of the entire session. So, sorry, I'm looking for like maybe a bridal party. Those are my favorite to show off because that's where I can speed up my workflow tenfold easily just by looking at them. So here we have a great example, right? I have a +5 in the corner. So it's telling me there's 5 similar images found. What that means is that there is 5 additional photos available to me. You can see them on the right-hand sidebar. It made a selection for me, but I can still make changes to that selection. So in this case, I can see all 16 people in this photo. I can see that they're all looking at the camera. Their eyes are all open, but let's just say I don't love that picture. using the keyboard shortcut period and comma, which again, you can find them all up here, right? So A is add, S is swap, and period and comma will navigate you through the similar images. So by period and comma, I can actually cycle through these similar images. And what I can do is then decide if I like this photo better. We'll pretend that her eyes aren't closed in this photo and her eyes aren't closed and his eyes aren't closed. We'll pretend that this is the actual one that I really wanted. If I use the S key, I can actually switch the ratings. So I still have that control. Again, in this case, if I look at this first photo and I see that everyone's eyes are open and they're smiling and looking at the camera, I'm good. I don't need to go through and see all the ones where everyone's eyes are closed and no one's looking at the camera, but I can if I want to. So I have that ability, which is really cool. Now, of course, the next way you can do this is through something called the loop view. So by hitting the enter key, I can actually jump into a loop view. So again, I can still cycle through my similar images if I'd like to. And then I can advance to the next photo and do the same thing and see my similar images all stacked up. And basically verify that the AI is doing its trick. As you get more comfortable with it, obviously you'll start understanding, hey, I don't necessarily need to look at all these photos because it's doing a good job. But usually the first couple times you feel like I need to see everything. And that's okay. That happens, and you will find some errors and some things that you need to change. It always happens because there's certain decisions that AI can't necessarily make clear cut. We can make a lot of basic decisions, but sometimes there's just some where, like for instance, this photo, if I were to cycle through, actually, I would just pick none of them, but I can, again, kind of just look at it and, it picked one of 6 because I took 6 photos, but I never got to see the couple, right? Because I just was firing the camera away. But it did a great job, right? So it really did nail down what I'm looking for with this photo. Having the bridal party rush in, did a good job, but I could still swap it if I felt like I wanted a different version.
Awesome.
Now, and then my favorite thing to use is called the spray can mode. So I use this grid view here quite a bit because it's pretty simple to use. And I just click on the spray can, left click, I have set it to reject my images, and then right click is set to add them. So I can now I call it clicking away my panes. So I kind of go through and decide if I want to just get rid of some stuff, some excess stuff. These are all very similar. And I just click on it and it's gone.
That's fairly easy. And I think the beauty of it is that the AI is learning, right? So it's not that the AI is stupid, and it's actually pretty smart. So like with every culling you make, it's gonna be more precise and will basically cull more like you would do, right?
Yep, it'll learn from you over time, which is really cool. So you get the advantage of opening the box and having a system that works for you. But then at the same time, the more you use it, the more it starts to learn how you would cull.
Sure. So what's the workflow now? Like, I'm a new user. I'm signing up. I want to cull my first wedding, right? So I open a new project, and I let the AI cull for me with my settings, and then I would go in and check all the images first, right? And basically like train the AI for future weddings and other projects that I have. So it will like basically like cull better. So you probably invest a bit more time in the beginning to have like a more streamlined and better workflow in the end, right?
Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure that you're reviewing it regardless. Like I said, 1,700 images would be too much for me. I'll probably get it down to 1,200 photos. And there is multiple ways to do this, right? So I would normally just reject photos out, but you can also train it just what you like. So there's this feature called My Selections. By simply toggling it on, I can actually choose the photos I want to add. So if I only wanted to add, say, 500 photos, I can use the AI to get me a lot closer. And then I can come in and just kind of fine tune it, right? Just pick out, I can click or use the keyboard shortcut D to just add in some images that I really want to add in.
Awesome. So,
and so again, it just, you don't have to train it per se, but it will get more accurate with you over time. So some people's workflow, they like to let the AI do a first pass, and then they open up all the images in Lightroom and edit and kind of review at the same time.
Yeah. I think what
Other people like to, really devote some time to the app and try and teach it a little bit more. And other people just use it like, hey, I got to get through this wedding season. Let me just go through as best I can and get these things culled And if it learns from me, great. If it just gets me done faster, that's also fine.
Yeah, I mean, what I personally think is exciting that these tools will only get better and better over the years. Like this is just the beginning, right? We're just like
Absolutely.
literally like starting, like it's the first year basically of Aftershoot and other similar tools, and it's already pretty dang good. And I can't even imagine like to see like what it will be like in the next years, where it will probably like be even better in culling than me personally.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So we as a company, we devote a lot of time and energy. So every month we release an update, and all of those updates are just filled with all sorts of updates to not only the user experience, right? Like how it operates, how it functions, but a lot of it has to actually do with how we actually cull the images. So we rely on users to come to us and say, hey, you know what? It was like 80%, 90% accurate. Can you help me? I'm having problems with these. And we can actually look at them and actually improve the whole process. Now, for myself, the last wedding I delivered, 98.7% of the photos that Aftershoot selected were the ones that I delivered to my client, right? So I had to
Mhm.
make a couple changes to them, but not much, which is wildly crazy. I mean, it's the fact that, and again, I use it a lot. I shot the first year we were in business, I shot 84 weddings. So it's seen a lot of culls. But it goes to show that it just keeps learning, and every update it just keeps getting better and better for me. So I would say maybe 2 or 3 months ago I was at 97.6% accurate, and then now we're at 98.6, and probably in the next update I'll be at like 98.9. Obviously it's hard to get to 100%. That's going to always be a challenge, because we always as creatives do different things and try different photo styles and tricks and things like that. But the fact that it can get me that close is huge.
Dude, 84 weddings.
Yeah.
that's that's, men- that's mental. I don't know how you did that.
It was 2021. That was the COVID reschedule year for
Oh,
me. So
shit.
normally I would do like 40 to 50 weddings a year, and that year ended up being 84 because of all the reschedules. And fortunately, I'm at 20 this year. So Aftershoot, it takes a lot of time to make this software work as awesome as it can. So I still like to shoot weddings because I love shooting weddings, but I also really like to be involved, right? I mean, one of the cool things we have as a company is we're a marriage between tech and photography. So a co-founder, Harshit, he is tech. He knows all the important things involving tech and all the new things coming up. And as a photographer, I'm the guy who's like, hey, I need this to work like this. So we put those two things together and, kind of created this magical company. I know there's a lot of companies in this space, and a lot of them are either really tech heavy, right? So they don't really think about photographers and how they operate. And a lot of them are some of them are just like photographers who don't have the tech to back it up. So we're a nice, happy mix.
Totally. And you mentioned like all these new features that are being added, like basically monthly, weekly, whatever. And can you let the people know like what's the plan for the future? Like, do you have like any big updates coming like for culling?
So yeah, for culling, we have some more genres coming in the next update, as well as a couple different options available for how you review photos. And then one really big update that's coming is actually the ability to cull and edit. So you're about to see the hardest part of your workflow. So I'm going to show you how editing works, and you'll see it, and you're like, it's not that complicated, but it's hard enough that we wanted to remove that barrier. So we'll have an update in early July that's going to eliminate any difficulty from going to culling to editing, which we're excited about.
Exciting. So before you show us the editing part, we've got some questions that people asked in the past days. So I'm just gonna yeah, shout them out, right?
Cool.
So how does Aftershoot handle large volumes of images during the culling process? Are there like any performance issues or considerations that users should be aware of?
That's a great question. So everything happens locally on your machine. There's no cloud necessary. And I'll show you actually how to turn off. We do have the ability to have the AI learn from you, but that does take the connection to the cloud. So you see here, it says Aftershoot is learning your style. If you turn that off, it won't learn your style, but it also means that there will not be anything uploaded to any servers or anything. So it won't learn from you, but also your images are secure on your computer. So that's extremely helpful, just to know. But as far as it outside of that, we don't require internet to operate. So even if you have the learning turned on, it won't require the internet. But this button here actually toggles how much of the resources of the computer we use, because we are local. We use whatever's available on your computer. So if you want to operate other programs or anything while it's on, you may want to turn it to low. So we'll use less resources. But if it's the only thing you're running, you can turn it to high and it'll run as fast as it can.
Awesome. Another question was like, how user-friendly is Aftershoot? Is it designed to be accessible for photographers with varying levels of expertise?
Absolutely. So the getting started phase here is quite simple, right? It's just choosing a couple of quick settings, and playing around with them a little bit will help you with your results. After that, it's about as easy as it can get. You can simply click on photos. You can, use the spray can mode, but you can click on a photo. Let's say I don't like this picture. I can click on it. I can hit the X key to reject it. There's only really 3 keyboard shortcuts that are super important to know. A to add images, S to swap them, X to reject them. So those 3 things, you can simply click on any photo to get rid of anything that you don't need by using the X key. And you can always just swap some images. So I can come over here and say, oh, I like this photo better. And I can hit the S key and just switch it out. So those are really the 3 important things. So A, S, and X will really get you through.
Awesome, awesome. And last question is basically about the system requirements. So are there any requirements in terms of hardware or software that photographers need to meet in order to use your Aftershoot, basically?
So we work on Mac and PC. You do have to be somewhat relevant and up to date with your operating software. I believe High Sierra is as far back as we go for the Mac software. But outside of that, if your computer can run Lightroom, it can run Aftershoot.
Okay. So basically everybody can use it.
Yep.
Sweet. So let's dive into, I think, the most interesting part for the majority of us, the editing, which is the newest feature that you guys added recently, because you were culling only beforehand, but now it's culling and editing, and which means for us, we can basically do everything in one place, which is amazing.
Absolutely. So we're super excited about the editing offer. So now we're able to cull your images first. You can review them, choose if you want to make any changes or anything like that. And then what you would do is your normal workflow. You can choose to export. So you can export to Lightroom Classic, Lightroom Mobile, or Capture One. The editing right now only works on Lightroom Classic. You can also choose to export to a folder, or you can do my favorite method. If I just select all of the images, I can simply drag and drop them right into Lightroom. And what that would do is just prompt Lightroom to open and only import the images that I have selected. In my case, I'm not going to import them because this is the wrong catalog to import them to. So we're going to pop back in. I'm going to show you what editing really looks like. But to get you started on what you need to know about editing, our editing, the way it's currently operating is we're having users train their own personalized profiles. So what that means is you need a minimum of 2,500 images to upload to our servers to learn from your editing style. We recommend starting with 5,000 if you've got them, because that'll really help us learn all the different conditions you edit in. But what that means is that you can upload these files to us. We build your own little magical editing unicorn and ship it right down to your computer, and it lives there. And then at that point, you don't need Wi-Fi to edit or do anything further, which again is a huge, cool, exciting thing, because you can really just open Aftershoot anywhere and run it. So I've actually culled and edited photos on my way home from a session. Obviously not, I'm driving, but it's in this passenger seat, culling and editing while I'm just driving home. And by the time I get home, my engagement session is culled and edited, and all I have to do is review it. So again, just a really cool tool to be able to use. So in my case, I've already built a lot of AI profiles, as you can see. So what I'll do is actually just show you the editing process. You don't need to cull to edit. So you can do them, you can cull only, edit only. You can do both. You can edit first and cull the edited images if you want by exporting them to a JPEG. So there's a multitude of ways you can actually go through the process. So to get started, in our case, we're going to just do the editing for this demo. So I'm going to just click Start Editing. First thing I would do is choose the AI profile I want to edit with. So again, all of my profiles will pop up here. The next thing I would need to do is actually decide what Adobe profile, what color profile I'd like to use. So if I use Adobe Standard, I want to make sure that obviously it's using Adobe Standard when it edits. If I'm using, Two Man's preset or whatever it may be, I want to use their color profile. So, you have to mix and match, or if I wanted to do the looks like film and I wanted to use Adobe Color for that one. So you just want to make sure that it's all lined up and ready to go for you. The next thing you have to do is decide whether you want to crop, straighten, or both. These are all included in Aftershoot, right? So there's no add-on costs or anything like that. So you can crop as you want to crop and straighten as you want to straighten. And then we have this last button here on this screen, which is Apply My Lightroom Preset. And so what Aftershoot can do is actually adjust the majority of sliders, but there's a few things we won't adjust, like color grading. So color grading is obviously a little bit more of a complicated process that we can't predict. So if you have this set to Apply My Lightroom Preset, when you built that profile, we'd actually learn what the values are for your color grading, et cetera, so that we can apply them the way that you would if you were applying a preset. And so now I'm just going to choose a catalog to edit here. We'll find something relatively simple that doesn't take too long, hopefully, to edit. We'll pick this one, and I will add that catalog in. And so now what I'm going to do is let that catalog load. We're not going to run the cropping and straightening for this one because it just adds a few extra seconds, and it's not very exciting to watch. I can admit that. It's not a super fast process. Let me come over here. Actually, sorry. I'm going to just choose a different catalog. I didn't realize that was such a big catalog. So we'll connect that one. I'll click on continue. It's going to verify that it's closed. So we want our Lightroom catalog closed. And then what I'm going to do is just tell it what I want it to edit. So in my case, I only want it to edit the unflagged images and 4 stars. And I can choose whether I want it to edit a collection or folders. So in this case, we'll just pick out, I had a session here. Actually, we'll do the 5 stars for this one. So just the 5 stars. It's 107 photos from this session called Kids Bridge. And I would just click on edit, and it's as simple as that. It's quite boring, but we can watch it run through about 100 photos here. It should take no more than a minute to get through them. And now this question is also the same. I'm sure it's going to come up, but it's how resource intensive is it to your computer? So same concept. This is a local program, right? So if I weren't on a live right now, I could just shut the Wi-Fi off and not be connected to the internet and run this. So it's relying entirely on my computer's processing speed. And so what that means is that if I have a slow computer, it'll take a little bit longer for it to edit.
Got it. Makes sense. You mentioned the cropping. So the AI does crop, and does the AI also like rotate images? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so it'll crop it. It won't automatically rotate it. So actually, these are some absolutely stunning photos by some amazing photographers. I feel honored to have even been able to run Aftershoot edits on these photos. But it'll crop and straighten. I actually didn't run it on these photos because I wanted their beauty to be shown off the way they would. But it would crop and straighten, but it wouldn't auto rotate for you.
Got it. Interesting. So a question people had, like probably a bit more like about maybe too much techie, but somebody asked, like, how does the algorithm like work? Like, what does it do? Like, the images are coming in. What's the process?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're training a profile, what we do is we look at all the different conditions that you photograph in. So we say, okay, this is off-camera flash. This is what happens when it's sunny. This is what happens when it's cloudy. This is what happens when you have like really yellow light, whatever it may be, right? So we start classifying the situations that you photograph in. And then what we do is learn what the subject is and how you expose and value that subject. We watch the sliders that you adjust to get to there. So what does the before image look like? What does the after image look like? And what steps did you take to edit it? How did you get there? Because again, there's multiple ways to get to the same endpoint. So
Sure.
we'll learn all of those pieces from you, like if you adjust your highlights, your shadows, your blacks, your whites, if it's contrast, if it's a tone curve, all of those different pieces. So like some photographers would edit just the tone curve to achieve this look. I am not that skilled, right? So I do it through the sliders. But we could do it either way. We just need to know what you do from those images and learn how to do it from there. And of course, the more images you give us, the more conditions we can understand, right? So if you're saying, hey, I have 10,000 photos, I shot 10 weddings last year, here's all of them. We can then look at those 10 weddings and really understand what it looks like when you have those really like awful lighting conditions where the sunlight's harsh and things aren't working well. And then we learn how you would edit that. And then it would say, hey, this is a cloudy day where everything was easy, and how do you edit that? And then how would you edit like, sunset or all these different conditions? So that's kind of like the basic terms of it. It's obviously way more complicated and like way over my pay grade, even how the actual unicorn algorithm stuff happens. But that's in basic terms how it would work.
Okay, but basically, just as the culling process, the AI learns with the edits as well. So like each wedding is shoot, you feed the AI the images, it edits them. Can you then like go in and fine tune these edits to basically like give?
Correct. Yeah. So once your edits are complete, you would click on review in Lightroom. I would open the Lightroom catalog, and then we could come in and fine tune them. And we do expect some fine tuning. It would be awesome if it could be 100% accurate, but there's so many variations that even a human being, I think, struggles with it. My favorite example is that, like, last summer I was, had a bunch of weddings and I was working with Aftershoot, and I was, starting to get behind because I was focusing so much on Aftershoot and there was a lot going on. And so finally I was like, all right, I got to sit down and edit. So I went back to weddings that I needed to deliver where I gave them a sneak peek, right? So I edited the sneak peek before we had editing available, before we were actually like when we were just trying to figure out how to make it work. So I have these edits that are sneak peeks that are like super yellow after the AI ran, because I realized like I was just tired and burnt out, and I was posting these really awful yellow images that they just didn't look like my style, right? They were like my style, but they weren't right. And the AI went through and edited them better than I would. So when I actually got back to finally delivering these weddings, I'm like, wow, I posted that really, like, the wedding dress was yellow. I posted that on the internet when the AI really showed me like, hey, this is a much better white balance that's congruent with your style. So yeah, that's my little fun story of last year. And that's, the consistency. It's cool.
We've got some questions from people that are coming in, but I've got a question myself personally.
Yeah.
The newest Lightroom denoise tool update, which is amazing. Does that also work within the editing right now?
So we don't actually integrate into that. So what we would do is we would edit your images, but right now we don't have a masking or a denoise feature. We do plan on launching masking this summer. So you will see masking. We've been working hard on it to make it awesome. But yeah, right now, those other AI tools available within Lightroom, you would still need to activate manually.
I mean, it just came out like literally, what is it, 2-3 weeks ago? So
Yeah, they're incredible. I mean, like all of these, I just like looking at these tools makes me go, yeah, I'm all in. I mean, obviously that's way too crazy, but just being able to have some of these cool tools
sure.
is awesome. But yeah, we do plan on launching some soon. So
okay, so an exciting update coming along the way. Okay, other questions. Can Lightroom rotating shortcut be used?
the Lightroom rotation shortcut, yeah, So I forget what it is. I was gonna do it and then I forgot. Yes, everything functions in Lightroom as normal. So what we do when we edit, we actually just apply edits to Lightroom catalog. So if you look at the history here on the left-hand side, you can see these are all the times I ran this catalog through. And if I head back to Aftershoot, you can see I can actually edit these files again. So I can click edit again. I can choose a different profile. I can like choose black and white and maybe just edit only virtual copies in black and white for that same folder. if I had them available in that one. I could do that. So I could run it as many times as I'd like. So actually, in preparation for today's live, this is what I did. I actually just ran it through. I built some fake profiles. So, Lukas, you were kind enough to send me over one of the presets so I could experiment, as well as these beautiful images from your ambassadors. So I was able to actually just like experiment with this. So I built 2 different versions of a Cascade preset profile. And then I ran it through my own profile, right? So that would be my profile. This is one of the Cascade ones. Now you do something kind of cool with your tone curves, which I don't do. So I'd have to darken a lot of these to make it kind of work, because it's learned what we've taught it. And then I did a bluer version of it because I love the colors and the toning, but I'm like a warmer photographer. But I was like, I don't know if this is, if I want it warm or if I like it cool, because these are such beautiful, like I love the look, right? I'm just like, these all look so pretty. I don't know. So yeah, I played around with a little bit with it, just to give some different looks. And it's awesome because again, these are all, I mean, stunning work by these amazing photographers, but these are all 100% AI edited, right? We didn't do anything to these. They're all just these different profiles we kind of built on the fly, editing them in their entirety.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, looks great, especially for a profile just created, and that will evolve over time and get better and better.
Yeah. Oh, if there was a real, like if we had actually taken some real photos that were edited in this preset, it would look amazing, right? I mean, I'm not tooting my horn because my work is very boring looking, right? It's very traditional, but this is my style of work, right? It's just very, calm, little bit higher contrast, slightly warm, and it's editing. This right here is exactly how I would have edited this photo. I would make 0 corrections to it. But again, it's because it had my data, so it knows how. Whereas like your preset, it's a little bit overexposed again because it's looking at my work and how I would want it to be brighter.
Totally.
Whereas your preset kind of pulls different tones, and I mean, I love your preset, so maybe it's time for a style change, but.
Yeah, so just for everyone out there, I've sent the Cascade presets over from Bench Height that you can get on Meridian, and just ran some tests on it on his images. So we tried to see if his images also like work with our presets, and yeah, as you can see, it does work. But then again, like it evolves over time, right? So it's constantly learning, and but yeah, it even works on other people's work, which is crazy and beautiful. There's a great question coming in. Would you recommend making one profile for weddings, which would include indoor with flash and outdoor with natural light, or making 2 profiles, one for outdoor and one for flash?
That is a fantastic question. So I personally have one for my wedding work. I have one profile that does. Actually, I'll open up mine so you get a good idea of what it would be. But I actually have one that I just dumped all the weddings I had available. So essentially, I just took everything, a whole bunch of weddings, put them in a catalog, and uploaded them. Now you can upload up to 15 different catalogs at the same time. I mean, you can probably go higher, but the most I've ever done was 25 catalogs at once. But essentially, you can absolutely, make a profile that includes everything or divide them up. I found my results were best when I put everything together because it really learned all the different nuances and how I work. So it was fantastic that I could go through and learn my processes to such a unique position.
Totally. Another question. So when you re-edit, will you get 2 versions in the same catalog, or will there be a new catalog?
So when you re-edit, it'll actually just overwrite those edits. So actually, sorry, I'm looking for my catalog. But essentially, it would just overwrite the existing edits. They would still appear in your history, so you could still go back and look at them. Like I said, for me, I would actually I make a virtual copy of images for myself. So I'll say, okay, here's the virtual copy. For me, I'm gonna make a virtual copy for black and whites. That's just my process. I like to have virtual copies. Make the virtual copy, and then run it. I do the edit again, and I run the black and white profile on the virtual copy, and then do it from there.
Okay, so then you can basically compare because the person asking said that you can't compare the catalogs if it's overwritten, but right?
Yeah, so you can go back through the history. So like I'll kind of walk through here. So like here's one that's been edited by one profile. Here's a different profile I had, which it's a little bit of a darker profile. So you can absolutely go through and try different.
Okay, so just like the history window will basically do it.
Exactly. Yeah. The history window will allow you to walk backwards. So you
Yeah.
can
Okay.
compare, like, okay, this is profile one, this is profile two, this is profile three. So you can also just kind of experiment.
Okay.
That's kind of one of the fun things that I found is, just playing with different data sets because it really does have a major impact as to what your photos would look like, depending on what you teach it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Another question. If we need to double check what the software does to see if we like it, how is it different or faster than just applying a preset and checking one by one?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So what we do is take a lot of the mundane work out of it, and the more you get to adapt and adjust to how it actually operates, and the better it gets with its learning, the faster you'll be able to get through editing. So let's just like if we were to pretend, if I were to reset this all the way, the first thing I would need to do is go to my preset. Let me find it. I would have to go find my preset. I apply my preset. This is my what I would start with no matter what, and then I would come in and I would just start tweaking some things. Um, you know, Again, just making some changes, going through all the process here, and then like I would probably still need to make some tweaks to make this even look good, right? But it essentially that's a bunch of things, whereas this right here I didn't do anything, right? It's good. I'm just looking at it to verify that it's good, and you don't necessarily have to. What I started doing now that it's gotten so good, I can actually review them in this view, right? Because I can see right straight ahead if there's a problem or if I need to change anything. And as you can see, these are all more or less edited for me. I don't need to make many changes, if any at all, to these
Totally.
photos. So it is faster. I will say, between the AI culling and the AI editing, my workflow, it used to take me about, 15 to 20 hours, give or take, to get a full wedding culled, edited, and delivered. And I'm down to under 3, right? Because the culling, I spend about 30 minutes reviewing it. And then I really do just spend about an hour and a half, 2 hours reviewing these images in this grid view and making some tweaks, right? Small adjustments here or there, especially some of the trickier lighting conditions. I may want to, bump up the exposure in some of them, or take some highlights down, or just if I find myself in a like fluorescent lighting condition, I never shoot in fluorescent lighting. So those ones I really do have to like do some corrections and edits to. But again, it's the small gains. So as photographers, if we can save, just a sliver of time in our workflow, that adds up over time. If you did, say 50 events and the culling saves you 10 minutes per event, that's 500 minutes, which is a couple hours, which imagine if you just had a couple hours back. But it's clear it's obviously a lot more time than that for me. And for editing it's the same. If I'm saving, say, 12 to 15 hours per wedding, that adds up over 20 weddings. That's a lot of time that I can really just do other things, whether you're doing marketing, whether you're adding to your client expectations, adding more clients, or if you're just kicking back and relaxing. I decided to try and build the best AI culling and AI editing software and all this extra time.
Yeah, I mean, with 84 weddings for a year, you had to. So there's no other way. I think the
Exactly.
point to get across here is that the AI is learning, right? So, Rodolfo, you asked the question about like what's the difference, and I think like me personally, yes, you need to double check in the beginning. Of course, you go in and you check it because you want to make sure it's good and accurate. But by doing this, you are like basically like training the AI. So like the next wedding, it gets better and better and better, and then like maybe in 5, 6, 7 weddings, it will be editing just like you, right? So it takes a while, of course, but that's the beauty of it. So it's similar like if you would like outsource to a company, they don't get it right away, right? So you send out your catalog, they send you edits, and then you tell them like, listen, guys, like I need more of this and more of that, and then you like also train them. It's the same thing, same approach. So you invest a bit of time like into training the model, and then it will give you a better result in the future. And as we mentioned
Absolutely.
earlier, like this is just like starting. Like this is like in just like a baby, right? And it will get better and better and better constantly. So that's exciting.
Yeah. Oh, and absolutely. And if you outsource to a human, they will still they can still get it wrong. AI will still get it wrong. But in this case, again, there's just so much that the AI can help you with just as the early steps, right? You can see how significant some of these changes are to what my preset would have been, right? My preset was, I don't even know if yeah, so this is my preset, right? And it's not huge in this photo, but it's big enough that, again, I didn't have to do anything to this photo. I would actually take the time to Photoshop this person out, which is something that before I was just like, oh, it's too much work. And I'd just be like, oh, let's just crop her in a little bit, right? Because that's what I would be doing, because I just feel like, it's taking me forever to do these photos and I have to really get through them. And so I actually have this photo rejected because this is a really important point that I love to show off, is that it's learning the things you teach it, right? So this is my off-camera flash work. I'm bringing my shadows up, my highlights down, because I really want to I don't want to lose too much detail in the shadows, but I also don't want the sky to be blown at all. So I have like this kind of look when I go to here, but it's learned from me that if I'm going to do like a higher contrast looking photo, it needs to bring the highlights up and the shadows down because I need contrast. So it's not just doing like a basic edit. It's really going in depth and going through and learning how I need it to edit for me, and making those individual tweaks. So again, it's not going to totally replace you entirely. It's just going to help you through a lot of these processes a lot quicker.
Sure. Some more questions. Can you please repeat what about cropping? Thank you.
Yeah. So here's a good example of cropping and straightening. Here's my before image, and it's obviously not straight, and it's been cropped a little bit. I would probably make some tweaks to this even. Maybe I would just adjust a little bit. For that one in particular, I would kind of like to keep the arbor in it, but it got me really close, which is awesome, to be able to say that it did so much for me automatically. So again, it's not going to do a lot of creative cropping. It's doing some basic straightening here, some basic adjustments, trying to level some images out. I have a tendency to just kind of shoot at a slight angle in a lot of pictures. So it's doing doing a number just to kind of fix me on that front, get me a lot closer to. So like here you have that horizon line there that's off, and then when it's through, now it's level, and I didn't have to do anything to it, right? It's doing it for me.
I'm the same dude. Like each each image is like tilted slightly to the right, and it's just weird that I do it. But yeah, it's such a time saver because I hate to straighten every single image, and yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we
Um,
designed it not to be very aggressive with the cropping and straightening, right? We wanted it to just kind of give you some help. We don't want to crop you into the rule of thirds too much, or really, change your images and your aesthetics overall, because a lot of us do photograph the way we want it to look. We just tend to have one leg shorter than the other, or whatever it may be. So it's just meant as a correction and not necessarily as a creative cropping.
Totally. More questions. I'm not sure if I totally understand that question, but we'll try. Could a retrain profile plugin be installed in Lightroom itself so that you can train with the latest jobs finished?
So the way our retrain works right now is on that screen. Here, you're able to, down along the bottom, you can click improve AI, or you can click it over on the side. So we have a couple places in there. We don't have it automatically linked through a plugin yet. And part of that is because that update I was talking about is going to actually allow us to skip Lightroom altogether. So coming soon, we're going to be launching the ability to edit directly to your photos so that you can import them edited into Lightroom. Meaning that you don't need the Lightroom catalog anymore to get your editing done. It'll just start editing right away after the cull. And we'll probably still have this button here because we do want to make sure that you're telling us it's okay to learn from it, right? So we want you to come in and say, hey, this really represents my work, right? This edit, I've tweaked it, I've adjusted it. I want you to learn from this, because some people don't. Right? Sometimes you may edit a wedding or a family session or whatever it may be, and it may not really reflect what you want it to do. So you don't want that to go up to the server and learn from it. So we don't want to automatically do it. We want you to tell us, hey, learn from it. Or in my case, I have my profile now is 100% perfect, right? I tweak maybe 20, 30 images tops. I'm mainly just tweaking like exposure on some of these things. And for that one, I don't want to add any more photos to it because it just knows me, right? It's perfect. I don't want it to maybe learn the wrong thing, or if I have a bad session or something, I don't want to give it that information so it gets worse. I want it to just kind of like hold the status quo. It's doing a good job.
Okay, interesting question by Nick. Can you just pick straightening and not cropping?
Absolutely. So I'll show you right here. We'll edit again. So you can just choose to straighten. It's your choice if you'd like to straighten, crop, or both.
Okay, so you can modify like anything basically. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And our next update as well is going to allow you to choose what sliders to adjust. So within Aftershoot, I'm gonna just pop on somebody else's profile really quickly, so you can see, because I don't do a lot of adjustments.
Cool.
So this is somebody else's preset.
That's a different look, huh?
What's that?
It's a different look now.
It's a totally different look, right? And I would have to bump the exposure here to make it look right, because it was another one of those fake ones. But essentially, what it is it's done the white balance for me, the tint, the exposure. It's adjusting all of these sliders based on how this person would normally adjust their photos, right? So it can do all of that for you, all the way down, except for the color grading, right? So it'll do your calibration and everything, but it won't do the color grading portion. So this is where that apply my preset thing came from, because he has this preset that would put on this for him, right? So it would learn to basically apply that. But it's doing all of that tweaking and adjusting and everything per that person's style.
Great. Awesome. More questions. Is there an option to configure a profile by basic values? What the AI has learned about the white balance, and I wanted to calculate minus 100 white balance.
So that's also the next one. So as I'd mentioned, we're doing all of these sliders, but you're also going to be able to decide if we edit those sliders for you. So let's just say that I wanted to only adjust my white balance and my exposure. And then I actually built a preset called Cascade Hack. So I can apply the looks like film look here on top of it. So I'm using the tone curves in the pieces here, and then I can just turn down the exposure, obviously, because I didn't really build the profile. It doesn't have the AI at that point. But I can essentially have it just edit my exposure and white balance and then operate as if I was using a preset as well. The AI profile process is way cooler because then I don't have to deal with anything. It's doing all of the edits for me. But this is a way to just kind of, again, achieve a certain look, but maybe you only need help with the exposure or you only need help with white balance. So we can auto do that portion for you. And that'll go for the same for the question you asked as well. So you will be able to say, okay, I only want you to adjust the exposure for this session and just know that I overexposed a lot. So reduce what you've learned from me by one stop.
Okay. And that's the best look so far, by the way.
It absolutely is. I am going back to your catalog, actually.
Okay, one more question. In the culling part of Aftershoot, could one view the duplicates similarly to survey mode, as I'm ending up selecting more photos with the loop view in Aftershoot?
Absolutely. So right now, well, not absolutely, but right now you cannot. It'll just appear in these side boxes. So you can decide if you want to see it in singular mode. But what we're actually going to be introducing in an update very soon is the ability to actually, we call it survey mode, essentially, and you'll be able to do that. So you'll be able to look at all of those different pieces. So you can say, hey, here's 2 additional images. I want to see those 2 as I'm going through them. So I want to just look at the full duplicate set.
Great. With like new features coming out, like, do you guys listen to the community? Like, improvements that they are wishing for? Like, what's the process behind like updates?
Absolutely. So we are huge on making sure that we are listening to the community, right? So we've always, as a company, as a whole, we've always been really devoted to photographers. Me being a photographer, I know how important it is. So we set forth a lot of values within the company from day one that like 24-hour support was a huge one for us. So we always said we have to be able to access somebody 24 hours a day and get support if you need help, because our lives depend on it, right? We're on deadlines and things, and you know, if you have a bug or you're facing trouble or you don't know how to use it and you have a question, you need to be able to access a real human being. So we made sure that 24-hour support was a part of it, and with that, all of our features that come up, we let users have input. So, you know, if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, Justin, I wish you could do this," I immediately turn and say, "Guys,
Nice.
let's put this on the roadmap and see how feasible it is. Is it practical? Whether it's limitations from AI or the product itself, what is the possibility of actually making this happen?" And it's awesome because that's actually where this survey mode concept that we have been designing actually came from, was just users saying, "Hey, I want to see that," and we said, "Okay." Um, Sorry, I'm gonna just do a live chat while we chat, just to show
That's
you that there's a real human here.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, with every new user that you guys have, like, you will have like another way to get more information on like if people are happy or not happy, and also probably like a new person to give you like insights and potential like updates and features, which is quite cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely amazing. You know, it's such a cool thing to be able to, you know, just be in touch with photographers and a company that supports them. So, like, you know, really, you'll find myself or, you know, our CEO in this chat. We watch it. We look and see like what's happening, what's the pulse, what do people feel. For me, a lot of it comes from like, hey, I just got back from this wedding and I have this problem with culling or whatever it is. You know, or I wish I had this feature that was available to me. So you know, again, I would utilize those features, which is really cool.
I
Um,
love love that. Like to me, like one of the most important things is that a company has a face, right? That it's actually like human beings like running a company and not just like a logo and nothing else, right? And I think like with you guys especially, when I checked you out for the first time, like um, this nice guy with the mustache, like immediately like showed up like in on videos like on how to use Aftershoot, and I think that's amazing because like you're the founder and you've been doing like all these videos and you're the face of the company, which is amazing. And yeah, I mean, I like that, and I love when people can just like interact with someone that is running a company and just like ask them questions, like give them features, and yeah, just be there for everyone.
Yeah, it's cool because those features really do. Like, I kid you not, like the spray can mode that I was showing off before, that was somebody literally just said, "Hey, what if you could just make it so I could click on images and get rid of them?" I was like, "Well, say no more. We got you." And we went in and we researched and figured out how to do it, built it, and launched it. So, and same actually with the My Selections feature I was showing, like just being able to, you know, this is my kids. I did a quick photo session of my kids. I only want 5 pictures, right? So I went from like 630 because my kids are a little crazy, as you can see. And I went from like 630 to 119 using AI. But what I want to do is actually just get down, and that was Adrian who responded. So thanks, Adrian. But so I would actually just turn on the My Selections and I would just say, I only want one photo of each child smiling and one of them all together. So I would just come in and just pick out the ones I want. So that's the one I want. I'm going to go find my son here. I'm going to, again, it's 5 photos that I really need. So I'm going to just pick the 5, and I don't need to go through and reject 100 photos. I can just select out a couple. And again, this is something that was a user request. They just said, "Hey, we really wish there was a way to just like pick out a handful of our favorites.
Got it.
We love that the AI can help us and do a lot of things for us, but we wish it was just, you know, a way to just say, hey, just 5 photos for today." And here it
Awesome.
is. So yeah, it's cool.
Somebody was asking if you can also like use stuff like a loop deck to color your images.
Absolutely. So we are, I have a profile in Loupedeck. We're working on getting it actually like legit integrated. But
Cool.
if you want to, I'm happy to share my Loupedeck profile with you, so you can actually tap and twirl and use all the dials to cycle through, which again makes it super awesome. Another tool that people love, there's these, it's called 8-bit do. It's these little mini game controllers. They look like Nintendo controllers, and
Yeah,
those
yeah.
things, they like fly through. They just use the buttons and cull like magic. It's awesome.
Great. Yeah, I think the biggest question that people might have, or that I also have, I mean, I know it, but you guys have like a very specific pricing structure, or like a pricing model, I would say, that is like completely different to other companies out there. So, what do you think are the benefits of your pricing model?
That's a fantastic question. So Aftershoots, obviously an unlimited product. So we are culling and editing locally on your computer. So there isn't a per image rate. It's a flat rate, which means that you can cull as many photos and edit as many photos as you want, which has changed my life. I have to be honest. So as a photographer, so those photos I was showing of my kids before, as a photographer, I really, I started photographing back in 2011. That was my first wedding. I'd been taking pictures before, obviously, of a bunch of things, but that's really when I started my business, was 2011. But I just kept being busy, 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 busy until 2016. I went full time. And that's when I like totally dropped everything and just focused on being a wedding photographer. At 2016, that was the last time that I took just photos for fun, because I was always worried about client expectations. I needed to deliver my weddings faster. I needed to spend the time doing all of these things. So I actually stopped taking pictures for fun, right? It was at that point, it was business only. It was a bummer, because I hope I speak for a lot of us. We get into photography because we love photography. We love creating art, not because we want to sit behind a computer and just work on photos. So those pictures of my kids, I actually took them this past fall. Those were the first pictures I had actually taken my camera out for and gone and
Yeah,
just said, I want to take pictures of my kids, because I didn't have the backlog. I didn't have the need to cull or edit. It was all done with AI, right? So those pictures, if I could show you the like this is a final picture, right? It's the JPEG image. This was 100% culled and edited by AI, right? So I did nothing to get this beautiful photo of my daughter. And it means a lot to me, because I hadn't done that for years, right? It just never had the time. I was always worried about clients and those sort of things. So
sure, sure.
it's helped me really fall back in love with photography. I'm actually here in India right now, and I drag my camera around and take pictures of everything, because again, I'm not culling them, I'm not editing them. The AI is doing most of it. And if there's a real winner, yeah, sure, I'll stop and do some Photoshop work, or really like take extra time to devote it to it. But otherwise, I'm actually just creating that art that I've always wanted to create. I'm just taking pictures because I love taking pictures.
Awesome. So back to your pricing model. I
Oh yeah,
think.
sorry. Going way off on a tangent. So yeah, that's really the pricing model. It's an unlimited culling, unlimited editing option for you. So that means you can run through as many projects as you want. Some people, again, it offers you an affordability, right? So you can actually cull or run edits on an entire set of image and then run the cull, right? So you can cull just your JPEGs if you want, already edited, which is fantastic. I know I did a demo for boudoir photographers. That's what this is over here. I did a demo for some boudoir photographers, and they love using it for in-person sales. So they actually go through, they run the editing. Again, it doesn't take that long. So they'll run editing on, say, 700 photos,
Mhm.
have them pre-edited, export them to JPEG, and then run the culling. And they sit with their clients and actually show off mostly edited photos. Again, there's no retouching or skin softening or anything, but the exposure, everything is there. And all of the blinks and the blur that are like the unintentional stuff is just set aside. And they're really just showing the in focus images that are edited in clusters. And they may come to a client and say, there's a +5 here. And their client may say, they'll say, hey, do you like this photo? Do you love the lighting, whatever it is? And they say, yeah, you know
Mhm.
what, I do, but I don't love my face. And then they can say, well, maybe this is a better option, or maybe this one, right? And you can show them different options, and they utilize this tool. Then they might say, okay, great, this is the one my client wants. I'm going to add it to my selections because then I'm going to bring it in for retouching. So again, there's just an infinite workflows within it for all different genres, which is really cool. And again, it's a flat rate.
Yeah, I think that's what's drawing me like the most to you guys, because like I know like what to expect. I know what my expenses will be at the end of the year, and no matter how many weddings I have, how many images I will cull, how many images I re-edit, right? It's still gonna be the same price point, and I'm not gonna be charged by like each image I edit, or you know. So it's way more, yeah, structured for me personally, so I know what to expect. I know what I can do, and I know I can be sometimes even creative. I can try different profiles. I can re-edit and just like go crazy and just like make everything perfect. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's really cool just to know. Again, this is so right now is our founders deal, right? So you get to kind of buy into this system before we officially launch the AI editing public. So what that means is that you can buy in now for a discounted rate, right? It's that $499 a year, but you lock in that price forever. So the like I was talking about masking before and all these things, you never pay a penny more. You know, as long as you keep your subscription, you're only paying $499 a year. So you can, you know, budget however you see fit to cover that. I know some photographers like to deliver their photos extra fast and charge more for it, right? So they'll say, hey, I can give you a 3-day turnaround on your entire gallery if you pay me $500. And then I know some other photographers are actually just exploiting it for album sales, right? So they'll turn around a wedding really quickly so that the couple's still on their honeymoon. They'll send them over an album design. They're still excited. They're literally in their honeymoon phase, right? And so using this as an opportunity to sell some albums, right? They want to just, you know, showcase, hey, here's your beautiful photos. You're still super happy that you got married because you're less than a week from your date, right? You're still on your honeymoon. And those photographers, one of them, actually a good friend of mine, his album sales have increased 60% because they're so elated. They get their photos back. They see this beautiful album design, and he's like, yeah, buy an album, right? Why not? And they're like, yeah, no, like we're pumped up. They're jazzed up. They're excited about it. So again, you can use it in different ways. And, you know, for myself, I still kind of keep my same turnaround times. It just affords me more time. With 4 kids, I'm busy, and then plus Aftershoot on top of it. I really just use it to kind of help keep me moving along and give me a little bit more free time.
Totally. So we are already over 1 hour, and I think it's time to slowly like wrap everything up. Um, I think we can share a special link, right, to your deal. Can you share that? Like, how does it work?
Absolutely. I will go ahead and copy that. I will drop it in the chat. I may have to go run around the internet here. So we will try and find that every version of it. So I'm going to post this to YouTube first and then the Facebook group. But we'll post it around so you can absolutely click on that link. It's Aftershoot edits, unlimited founders deal. So you can absolutely dive back in. You can watch this podcast again too, or sorry, not podcast, the stream again. It's going to stay up for you guys on Aftershoot's YouTube channel. It'll be up in the Looks Like Film group as well. So you guys can check it out there, and we'll go ahead and I can actually show the code on the screen. Look at that. So if you want to screenshot that, if you're itching to try it, it is a free trial, so you can dive in. You do have 15 days to get in on this founders deal, right? So it's going to end in 2 weeks. So be sure to kind of dive in, try it out. If you have questions, again, 24-hour in-app support. We're always here for you.
So what's the price bump once the founders deal is over?
That's the secret part.
Secret.
Yeah.
So
so the founders deal, we do know it's going to take a leap. So essentially, the best way to explain it is the more people that use it, the more it costs to operate, because it's bigger servers, etc. So the more people that dive in, the more expensive it gets. So definitely dive in while it's affordable, and it'll still be affordable, but it'll just probably increase, you know, a little bit.
Yeah, and I think we will be able to answer more questions in the comments. So if you still have questions, like leave them below if you rewatch this. maybe tomorrow or like within a week. Leave your comments down below. We're gonna go back and answer your questions, even the ones that we couldn't answer like right now. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this, and this was actually quite fun. Like, it's my first time doing this, and I hope you guys thought I was doing a good job, and you too, Justin.
Thank
And
you, did fantastic. So thank you for having me. Thank you to Looks Like
of course,
Fun group for even watching. Yeah,
we
you can always message us. I love chatting with users and people who are prospective users have questions. So you can always tag me too if you want to know. Um,
Yeah, I mean, thank you for coming because this topic was so requested that we could not do a webinar because there were so many like threads and comments about like AI and like and all these tools. And as I mentioned, like in the beginning, I think we like at a certain stage right now that is like right before like the next big change in the industry, and we're like seeing everything unfold. It's again like still starting, and it's just going to improve over the years, guys. So if you guys want to lock in your founders deal, do it within the next 2 weeks before we see a surprise price bump. Uh,
hey, it's
and
not a surprise. I'm warning you.
surprise,
Dive in now. But thank
yeah,
you, Lucas. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being here.
of course. Thank you so much. And yeah, to everyone out there, I hope you guys have a great morning, great evening, or I would say good morning, good evening, good night, right?
There you go.
Okay, see you guys.
Hi, everyone.